He lived like a king. He flew private jets, sipped champagne, and walked red carpets. But behind the extravagance was a storm of rising debt, angry banks, and unpaid salaries. This is the story of how India's flamboyant billionaire walked straight into a financial trap of his own making. This is the debt trap. When Lee Mallya launched Kingfisher Airlines in 2005, he promised to redefine air travel in India. Leather seats, in-flight entertainment, gourmet meals, every passenger was treated like royalty. But luxury comes at a cost. And Mallya paid that cost not from profit, but from borrowed money. The airline bleeding losses became a financial black hole. By 2009, Kingfisher had never turned a profit. By 2011, it was defaulting on fuel payments, airport charges, and employee salaries. But Mallya, he kept up the facade. As losses grew, Mallya did what many businessmen do. He borrowed more. From 2004 to 2012, 17 Indian banks lent over 9,000 crore rupees to Kingfisher Airlines. Loans were taken to cover old debts. New debts were created to cover operational costs. Here's the staggering truth. 1,600 crore rupees from SBI, 800 crore rupees from PNB, 700 crore rupees from IDBI, 550 crore rupees from Bank of Baroda, and more from UCO, Federal, Axis, and others. No collateral, no repayment plans, just confidence. Mallya's charisma, his political clout, and the illusion of Kingfisher's success kept the money flowing. How could banks give such massive loans with so little security? That's the question India would ask later. But at the time, bank officials trusted Mallya's track record, his personal guarantees, the overvalued Kingfisher brand as collateral. That's right, a brand name was valued at 3,000 crore rupees and used to secure loans. By the time the airline collapsed, that brand was worth nothing. 2012 was the breaking point. Kingfisher was grounded, flights were canceled, staff had not been paid for months, airports stopped refueling planes, passengers were stranded, and regulators suspended the airline's license. Mallya claimed it was temporary turbulence, but in reality, the plane had crashed, financially. This became the big question. Where did the 9,000 crore rupees go? The enforcement director at ED began investigating. Findings showed loans were diverted to foreign bank accounts. Money was routed through shell companies. Large sums were used for personal luxury expenses, lavish events, yachts, real estate, and Formula One sponsorships. This wasn't just business failure, it looked like financial fraud. Thousands of Kingfisher staff, pilots, engineers, cabin crew, were left without salaries for months. Some protested, some filed legal cases, some were forced to take up odd jobs to survive. In the midst of their suffering, Mallya was spotted at horse races in the UK and parties in Monaco. He claimed he was the victim, but India saw him as a billionaire who abandoned his employees. As the scandal exploded, so did political tensions. Opposition parties accused the government of allowing Mallya to flee. Banking regulations were questioned. TV debates turned fiery. Mallya became a symbol of corruption, of system failure, and of elite privilege. The media dubbed him the billionaire bank robber, India's most wanted debtor, the king of bad loans. Everyone wanted to know, how did he get away with it for so long? In 2016, banks declared Mallya a willful defaulter, someone who can pay but won't. This status was a turning point. It meant legal action, asset seizures, travel restrictions. But before the system could act, Mallya had already left India. On March 2, 2016, Vijay Mallya quietly boarded a flight to London. At that moment, over 9,000 crore port in debt was unpaid. Arrest warrants were pending. Banks were preparing to seize assets. Mallya later claimed, "I didn't flee, I just left. I'm an international businessman." But India's government saw it differently. They began the process to extradite him from the UK. Mallya's companies had collapsed. His image was shattered. His empire was gone. The man who once toasted champagne at Formula One tracks was now fighting extradition in British courts. The debt trap had snapped shut, And the king of good times was now the face of India's banking crisis. What began as a dream to create India's most luxurious airline ended in a nightmare of debt, fraud, and betrayal. The story of Vijay Mallya isn't just about money. It's about what happens when ambition turns into arrogance. He flew too high, too fast, and without a parachute. In chasing glory, he lost everything. Next up, Episode 4, The Escape and Extradition Battle. How India tried to bring Vijay Mallya back, and the global legal fight that followed.